This is Selma Schimmel, and this is Unique and Unmistakable Amsterdam. The cultural and commercial capital of the Netherlands is used to being the center of attention, and this year is no exception as it hosts the European Cancer Congress 2013. This is a multidisciplinary cancer congress sponsored by ECHO, the European Cancer Organization, ESMO, the European Society for Medical Oncology, and ESTRO, the European Society for Therapeutic Radiology and Oncology. Bringing together the most imaginative and innovative minds and researchers from across the continent and around the world to engage global stakeholders, coordinate a unified oncology community, and speak with one voice. Vital Options Advocacy in Action is here to do the same, bringing together influential leaders of the cancer advocacy community for a three-part advocate forum. This is our fourth European Advocacy in Action, and we are so proud to be in Amsterdam, grateful to be partnering with ESMO and ECHO, and honored to bring it to you. Markus, what about patients with rare cancers? And we already have enough challenges. It even becomes more complicated to access innovative therapies and hopefully to find a trial for a rare cancer.
Definitely. When we look to rare cancers, we are talking about around about 22% of all cancers are rare. So we are talking about around 200 roundabout different diagnoses. These are only the facts. When you look to the survival rates, they are very, very different from common cancers. So what is the background of this? And what is the situation of the patient? Very often, patients with rare cancers, they have a late diagnosis, they have wrong diagnosis. In many cases, they are not treated in specialized centers, and sometimes they arrive very late in specialized centers to get the treatment. You have different diseases in rare cancers where you have no treatment guidelines available. Some are available, some are not available. So it's about, for patients very often, to move through a healthcare system in finding, understanding the diagnosis, but also get appropriate treatment and find the right specialist who is able to treat the patient. This is the basic of if it comes to treatment and care. But the situation is much more complicated if it comes to clinical trials, because it's a rare cancer, or these cancers are rare. There are not so many clinical trials available for these patients. Very often the patients are not aware of these clinical trials. They have no idea what a clinical trial is in general. That was just mentioned by Anita. So they have no experience with clinical trial. What is a clinical trial? What are inclusion criteria, exclusion criteria, and all these issues? But also to find a clinical trial that might be fit to their situation, but also to find the right trial center. And so this is one of the main issues and main important tasks of patient organizations in rare cancers, to inform patients in general about clinical trials, but also to make the information available about clinical trials. And sometimes we have very specific clinical trials where we have subtypes of these rare cancers. So it's quite very difficult to find the patients and to do research on this. And then there is another important aspect coming from the community of rare cancers. We would like, as patient community, be much more involved in clinical trials, in clinical trial design as early as possible. This is one of our main challenges and requests to the research, but also medical community, to be involved in these designs as early as possible, not because patients think they can do research, but we can bring the experience, the needs, the problems, the situation of the patients to the table to make trials more meaningful for the patients, but maybe also more cost-effective if it comes to costs and administrative burden. But I also think patients are having a strong voice in making the site, the version of the patient, the experience, more transparent, specifically to regulators, HTA bodies, and different other people, to make very clear what is the real situation of the patient, and not making decisions somewhere from the green table to decide about patients, but more involved about all the details that are really significant for the role of the patient.
And define the end point. You know, it's different what the researchers often mean what's good for the patients than the patients really want to have.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Patients don't care about endpoints, how doctors or researchers look to endpoints. Patients have a totally view on so-called endpoints. The main objective of a patient is to be cured. If this is not possible, patients think to live as long as possible with this kind of the disease. That means in many cases that this is a stabilized disease. So, and if patients also can achieve under this treatment an acceptable quality of life, because we also know, we talked about these modern drugs and side effects and so there are different views of patients and very important views that could be brought by the table from patient advocacy organizations to the medical or to the researchers world, but also in the other way around to make more understandable to patients what research will mean to them and to understand, to make a research more understandable to patients.
Thank you for being so articulate and committed.
Thank you indeed.
Here.